Please follow me on social media, Twitter, Sir_Hunts, Instagram, Sir_Hunts_reviews, and here on YouTube, Sir Hunts Reviews. Now, we've got quite a bit of information to talk about in this video. Actually, it's only 3 topics, but it's still quite a lot of bit of information. Please, do me a massive favor. Slap a like on this video. Like goes going to be 420. And then also, this is the most important thing you could ever do for my channel. Subscribe to me here on YouTube. I don't know what's going on with the algorithm, but I don't really need to explain it. Just go and look at the view count on all of my videos, even since House of the Dragon came out. So please, if you enjoy my content, just subscribe to me here on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Alright, so first things first, this is like breaking news. Not technically, I already broke the news here last night. I haven't seen it reported anywhere. Claire told me first, personally, through the DMs on Instagram. She follows me along with the twins, which is super exciting because they're responsible for the amazing show that we've seen on screen, right? So she told me she's returning for season 2. She's going to be directing episodes 2 and 5. This is really exciting because potentially with her directing episode 2, she could be in charge of blood and cheese. Now, if we look at some of the episodes she directed last season, well, then it just makes sense that they would task her with something like that. So she told me episode 2 and 5. She did 3 episodes last season, but this season is 2 episodes shorter. So it's amazing that she was still able to get 2 episodes. That's dope. But potentially, episode 1 could be full-on reactions to what happened. And then at the end of episode 1, blood and cheese is set up. And then in episode 2, it actually happens. And the majority of episode 2 could be potentially blood and cheese, right? That's how I can imagine the season going. That's how a lot of people kind of predicted it would go online. This is insanely exciting because I think it's kind of confirmed that she's going to do blood and cheese, because when we look back at the episode she did, right, so episode 4 was when Daemon and Rhaenyra sneak out, right? King of the Narrow Sea. They sneak out through the Red Keep, through the tunnels underneath, right? They go into the streets of King's Landing and have an orgy, a giant orgy. But then in episode 5, right, there is Rhaenyra's wedding, right? Laenor's boyfriend, Joffrey, gets his face pounded in. And then guess what? There is a tiny little rat at the end of the episode that comes up and drinks the blood. Drinks the blood. The rat drinks the blood, drinks Joffrey's blood. Now, the rat and it being Joffrey's blood, not important. It being Joffrey's blood is not important, but the fact that it's a rat, it's blood and cheese. Literally, blood and cheese. Rats eat cheese. Now, I know there's a theory that another YouTuber made about potentially the rats being warged by Lares. I don't think that's true. I like the theory. I think it's fun, but I don't think that's the case. I think this was literally setting up blood and cheese. Blood and cheese, it being foreshadowed, right? We've seen rats walking, throughout the Red Keep. It's a problem. It's setting up the hiring of a rat catcher. It's going to be casually mentioned, probably in episode 1 or episode 2 of season 2, like, we need to get a rat catcher. There's too many rats around here. And when they bring in the new rat catcher, perfect opportunity for blood and cheese. And like I said, it was set up in episode 5 of season 1. So the next episode, aside from her directing episode 9, would be blood and cheese, episode 2. You all let me know what you think about this news down below. I'm insanely excited. She brought a new lens to the show that hadn't really been seen before. The dynamic of the relationship between Daemon and Rhaenyra was something that, through her perspective, made everybody love them even more. So it's amazing. So with her being potentially tasked to, even if she doesn't do blood and cheese, right, she still has 2 episodes. So I'm positive that those episodes are going to be just as impactful and amazing. But like I said, you all let me know what you think about this down below in the comment section. I personally am insanely excited. Now we're going to delve into this not a blog post from George. It's talking about Dunk and Egg, obviously. I'm excited. I know y'all are excited. I got a Dunk and Egg series of videos coming out. If you actually want to see me do a live stream on Dunk and Egg. Actually did one about 2 years ago. Go to YouTube and type in Sir Hunt's Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and it's me talking about the first book, The Hedge Knight, right after I just read it, and it was really fun. So you can watch that if you want to. All right. So this is from George's notablog, which is his official communication source. Like he'll tweet stuff on Twitter, but that's usually his minions. He'll post stuff on Facebook, also usually his minions. Not all the time, but usually. But notablog, for the most part, contains the most amount of his words, like his spoken words to the fans. So if you didn't know and you want to find out if something is factual, if some recent headlines or news or whatever came out, give George a couple of days. Usually he'll post everything you need to know right here. Why would you not get the news from the Raven's mouth? You know? Let's see, starting off. The news is all over the internet by now. The announcement was made on April 12th at Warner Media's big press event for the rollout and rebranding of their new streamer, Max, coming your way on May 23rd. I'm actually not that excited about that because my fee monthly is going to be going up because obviously I don't want to watch any damn ads, so I'm going to have to start paying more for HBO Max. Like, yeah, it's exciting that, they did the merger thing, but I'm not excited to pay more money. I was sworn to secrecy till then, but now that the word is out, I can go ahead and confirm it. Yes, it's true. There's another successor show on its way to you. Dunk and Egg are coming to HBO. The working title is, this is funny, the working title will be A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight. What else? Like, it's funny to me because that's the perfect title, right? A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is literally the name of the three first novella put together, right? So you have The Hedge Knight, The Sworn Sword, The Sworn Shield, or whatever, right? Those three mini novels are combined into the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, right back here, right? So with them saying like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon is what it was called, right? I just thought it would be interesting if they had did it again, right? But they didn't. So I don't know what the hell people's problem. But anyway, Game of Thrones, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight. If that is the full title, that would be pretty funny because it's long, but it doesn't. Who cares? It tells exactly what it is. It's for the casual show watcher. Like when they come up with stuff like that, he's like making fun of it because we all call it Dunk and Egg. He says Tales of Dunk and Egg or The Adventures of Dunk and Egg or Dunk and Egg. Or anything along those lines. He's like, I love Dunk, I love Egg, and I know fans refer to my novellas as the Dunk and Egg stories, but there are millions of people out there who don't know the stories, and the title needs to intrigue them too, right? I don't know if this is like our first ever graphic from the show, but it looks like, George has like shared stuff before on his notablog that isn't official. Like he famously shared this really crappy version of Drogon edited to make it look like an official House of the Dragon poster. He shared it on his blog before because I think he thought it was official. But this, I hadn't actually seen this anywhere until he posted this on his notablog. That looks like the newer version of the Game of Thrones font. The kind that they use for the House of the Dragon stuff. So maybe that's the first official, graphic for it. The map behind it I have seen before. That those were released in World of Ice and Fire Maps of Westeros book. But yeah, so that's really cool. He says HBO has given us a green light to film for a full season, not just a pilot. That's extremely important. Extremely important as a fan because we're not just getting the show potentially. No, we're getting we're not just potentially getting a show. We're for sure getting one season of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's going to be focused on the Hedge Knight, which in my opinion is the most compelling of the three stories. Like, yes, it's fun to hang out with Rohan Weber and Bennis of the Brown Shield, right? But And then also Bloodraven in the third one. But the first Hedge Knight book, the first, book in the novella series, right? Night of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight. That really sets up the tone and pacing of the story. Because if you've only read the main A Song of Ice and Fire books and you pick up The Hedge Knight, it's going to throw your head for a spin because there's only one POV. It's all from Dunk's perspective. Like, yeah, there's the outside narrator's perspective who kind of does the third person omnipresent thing, but for the most part, George has never written a story set in A Song of Ice and Fire from one person's perspective. So it just shows you how talented he is as a writer. The scale and the scope of the stories is smaller. It doesn't feel as high stakes and as insanely epic in the sense of like how long and detailed the original series of books is. It doesn't quite hit that scale of epicness, but it is still, it's amazing. The set and setting of Night of the Seven Kingdoms really shows you how Westeros actually is from an outsider's or from a low person, from a common folk's perspective. Remember, the main series deals with all the great houses. George kind of forgets that the small folk exist. We don't have very many perspectives. Every single main character is linked to a higher up house in Westeros, and it's a named house in Westeros, so you know they have money. Like House Stark, you might think that they are poor because of how they're depicted on the screen, but they're the richest house in the north. Their castle and the winter town that surrounds it is insanely expansive, right? So when you when you just see that version of it on screen, like just the higher ups, you kind of forget about how their actions affect the smaller folk. And that's why Dunk and Egg is so good. You have Dunk, who's this dude that literally is just a damn orphan from Flea Bottom, right? And then he's picked up by this other dude, Sir Olin of Pennytree. He's a hedge knight. And if you're unaware, a hedge knight is somebody who just travels the Seven Kingdoms, enlisting themselves to work for a great house. They could either be given something like guard duty, where they'll guard a caravan or escort someone through a dangerous pass or get them from point A to point B safely, or they're hired to defend land. So, for instance, when I just mentioned Sir Bennis of the Brown Shield, Dunk and Egg are tasked with trying to defend a keep from someone who's invading on their lands. That's what a hedge knight does. That's kind of like their whole thing, right? So they'll do, it could be many different things, but for the most part, you get to see through Dunk's perspective a lot of Westeros, a lot of parts of Westeros that we never would get to see because all of the POVs are in major houses. Like, Ned's not going to let his daughter, she ends up doing it anyway, but Ned's not going to, let me get back on track here. It's just, it's an amazing perspective to have. It flipped. George goes on to mention in this, not a blog post, that he's got some more books planned, like in the world of the Hedge Knight, Night of the Seven Kingdoms series. So he says if the Hedge Knight does well, right, they will plan on adapting the other two books, which is obviously the Sworn Sword and the Mystery Knight. I know I said the Sworn Shield, but the Sworn Sword and Sworn Shield are interchangeable, so always mix those up. This is direct quote. If the Hedge Knight turns out as well as we hope it will, our hope would be to go on to adapt the Sworn Sword and the Mystery Knight as well. That will take a few years. Then comes the hard part. Before we reach the end of the published stories, I will need... Whoa. I couldn't debate. Should I pause this and stop and sneeze all my sneezes out? Because I feel like if I don't do that, I will keep sneezing randomly. I need to write other Dunk and Egg novellas that I have planned. There are more of them than I had once thought. Jesus, George, you'd like to set yourself up to have to work really hard. The Village Hero and the Winterfell story. The one with the she-wolves, and maybe I need to write the Dornish adventure to slip in between the Hedge Knight and the Sworn Sword. Because at the end of the Hedge Knight, just clarifying if you don't know, at the end of the Hedge Knight, Dunk and Egg go down to Dorne in search of Tansel Tootal. And you would think that the Sworn Sword picks up with that storyline, but they actually skip past it. And it's Dunk and Egg doing the Rohan Weber, Bennis of the Brown Shield storyline, So George is saying that he'll need to write something to switch in between there to let us know what happened. So yeah. Then he goes on to say, I just need to finish the Winds of Winter into either A Dream of Spring or Volume 2 Fire and Blood and slip in a new Dunkin' Egg in between each of these in my copious amounts of spare time. And that will keep me ahead of Ira and his merry crew for a few more years. Well, I will worry about that tomorrow. Today we're celebrating. Dunkin' Egg are coming. All right, George. Let me do this here. I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna be dramatic. Like, I saw some people being dramatic and saying, like, this is why we're never gonna get Winds of Winter. The man has his plate filled and he's doing too much and this and that and that and this and yada yada. Here's the thing. He's in his 70s. He's already written so much of a world that HBO is going balls deep as if he was Stan Lee creating the Marvel comic books in the 70s and 80s and 90s and, all the way up till today, right? I don't think he'd be making jokes about, I just need to do this, and that all before, all at the same time of having to write Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring, and then even more Dunkin' Eggs. I think he's like kind of, at this point, probably pretty close to putting out Winds, and he's already probably written those Dunkin' Egg stories, because if I'm not mistaken, he said he had already mostly finished She-Wolves of Winterfell back in 2012, but he wanted to put a book in between that, The Village Hero, and because he was still writing Winds of Winter actively, heavily at that time, he decided to put the entire series on the back burner and focus on Winds of Winter. That was 2012, so it's interesting. I will say that personally, I wouldn't be making jokes. Like, if I was George, I wouldn't make jokes like that, because I know how much people are dying for these damn books if I wasn't close to putting something out, right? He said Fire and Blood Volume 2. So yeah, all right. Now, the last part of this video, sorry, I know it looks crazy. I got pictures all over me and stuff, but I've been putting this off for a while. And as a matter of fact, let me do this real quick. Please go subscribe to my boy The North Must Remembers YouTube channel. My dude has been killing it with the content, right? He's actually an executive producer of my videos here on YouTube. He's a member of my Patreon tier known as the Dragon Knights, right? So without his support, I wouldn't be able to make these videos. But also, he's been consistently putting out content a lot more regular than most of the YouTube. You could go watch his stuff right now. If you're a fan of my content, then you'll love his content even more. Man's been doing his own Game of Thrones Season 9 for a while. So if you want to continue the main story, go support this dude. Go subscribe to his channel. I actually will likely try to be showing some of his videos in a live stream, and he's actually going to be joining me for a live stream. So that's dope. I've got something planned coming up with my Patreon members. But this was requested by him for a while now. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Matt. I asked you to send me some more goddamn information, right? So, like research. So it's easy for me to formulate the video, right? But this is mostly a theory for the show. It doesn't really work for the books because we know how old Longclaw is. It's kind of even mentioned on the TV show, but the idea struck my mind because of how similar, literally just off of looks alone, Longclaw looks like Dark Sister. Like, as you can see in these images right here, let me see if I can't make them a little bit bigger. Right? So this right here is Dark Sister, okay? And then this right here is Longclaw. So let's just look at the two, just off of principle. Hang on. Just off of, like, strikingly visual, or similar visuals. I'll bring myself back and then make myself smaller. Yeah, y'all like Sir Hunt's editing on the fly? On the fly, guy? Like, literally, let's look at these things, man. Like, Longclaw's handle is slightly shorter, but that's because the pommel of the wolf's head extends longer down the shaft. So it's actually the same length. It's just the pommel on the end of the sword. One's a dragon egg on Dark Sister, right? One's a wolf's head on Longclaw. Same size, right? Then you can look at the Valyrian steel crossguard, right? It's the same fucking shape. It just looks as though the Valyrian steel on the crossguard of Longclaw was pushed together and formed into just a normal looking crossguard, whereas the Valyrian steel version of Dark Sister, it's potentially the same sword, was hammered out to show wings sprawling. So I'm not a blacksmith, but I think they're meant to look strikingly similar, right? In the sense that, like, regardless of whether Longclaw and Dark Sister are the same, they were made by the same people, Valyrians. Valyrians are famous for their dragon steel. This Valyrian steel was unopposed. You don't have anything better than it, right? The one thing that I think really lends itself to this theory is that when you look at the last whereabouts of, let me bring up the other images of Dark Sister and Longclaw. When you look at the last whereabouts of Longclaw. Oh wow, didn't mean to do that. And the last whereabouts of Dark Sister, they're kind of like in the same location, right? So what will happen with Dark Sister on the show is kind of up for grabs. But in canon, you know the dude living in the cave in the tree that Breanne goes to see for season 4, and then he disappears for all of season 5, then comes back in season 6, and it's a different actor who no longer has branches growing out of his face? Initially, and we're going to find out in the Dunk and Egg show, the Dark Sister is retrieved from the lake in which Daemon kills Aemon by driving the sword through his eye. Dark Sister is retrieved from there. And the last known whereabouts is Bloodraven. When Bloodraven is exiled to go north of the wall by King Egg the Unlikely, when Bloodraven is exiled and forced to go join the Night's Watch, he takes Dark Sister with him to the wall. And within a year, he becomes a Lord Commander of the Wall. And then within a few years, he leads a ranging north of the wall and disappears. This is when he takes his Raven's Teeth archers, who are wargs, who willingly go with him to the wall. I can't wait to see all this shit on Dunk and Egg. It's amazing. I thought I'd honestly never get to see it, but here we are. He takes it with him north. It's sitting in that cave, right? So if he takes it with him to the wall, if Bloodraven can see the future, it's totally possible that Bloodraven knew Jon Snow was going to show up at the wall. Jon Snow would need to lead the army against the others, against the Night's Watch, against all this shit, right? And then he could secretly leave it with the Northern House, House Mormont, who has long ties with the Night's Watch, right? And then unknowingly Gior gives Dark Sister, which is now Longclaw, it's been rebranded, and then it gets rebranded again because initially it has a bear's head on the pommel, and then it's changed to a wolf's head. So it's possible that the sword was then just left there by Bloodraven when he went north of the wall, not north to the wall, but north of the wall to his cave, right? And he knew that sword would one day be held by Jon Snow. Right, so I hope you all enjoyed this. I enjoyed making it. Today's my anniversary. I've been with my girlfriend for 12 years. I'm going to go enjoy myself with my family. Thank you for watching. Please, if you want even more content, I just dropped a 32-minute video. Well, actually, that's a bad way of advertising it. If you want more content, I have this thing called a Patreon, and in my Patreon, I thought I covered up that image, and in my Patreon, what the heck? Where's my damn logo? Come on, man. There we go. In my Patreon, I have about 60 episodes of a podcast called Leaks and Lore, video and audio. Like, some of them are videos, some of them are audio only, but most of them are exclusive to Patreon only. You can join for $1 or $2, but if you can't do that, by the way, shout out to my girl Breanne Johnson, my girl Destiny Phillips, Tyler Schnabel, and the North Must Remember. They are all, 4 of them are all members of my Dragonite tier over on Patreon. But if you can't do that, thank you for watching. Please subscribe here on YouTube, and also please slap a like on this. Like goal is going to be 420. I know I'm asking for a lot, but if you enjoy my content, those things are really easy to do. But if you can't do those, thank you for just viewing this. Hello, not.